Okay, so we'll get going. I do want to thank you for coming. I know it's nearly the end of term and we're all getting a bit tired. This is me talking to you about gamification. It is something I've done a bit of research into for the last couple of years and thinking along the lines of it was TPAs and the like. And this aspect that I'm going to show you today is just a cut down of some of the things that I have discovered. So as said, curie.live, if you want to go to the site and then use the PIN code, and that will get you in there, or you could scan the QR code with your phone and join that way, whichever you feel inclined to do. So we're going to talk about gamification in education. I have put the date wrong there, Kay, I apologise. Going backwards in time a little. Right. Now, I really like this particular quote about games and gameplay. The idea that gameplay is the direct emotional opposite of depression, which those of us who grew up playing games and computer games and the like as they came around, yeah, we have quite an experience with that. Now, I want to know from you whether you have heard of gamification before. So what's going to happen is it's going to ask you to fill in a poll, and you need to, on your phones or your MacBooks, wherever it is that you are using your device, answer the question, have you heard of gamification before? You've only got a few seconds to register your answer in. I've got the ability to add some time should we need it. So if we've got learners who are a little bit slower to get started in the morning, we can just keep pushing the add extra time, which is quite a helpful function. Generally I have the learners and I'll say, do you need more time? And they will tell me, and I will hit the button to give them a bit of extra time if needed on some of the questions that I ask. All right, so we've got 7 in. It will tell you, it will count down. And here's what we know. Alright, the majority of us have heard of gamification before. 1 or 2 of us have not heard of it, and only a couple of us have heard it in passing. So that's good news. That's good news. What we find when we're talking about gamification is that it's not about the creation of games in and of themselves. It's actually just about the inclusion of game-based elements into your teaching, something that we do quite often for our formative assessments without thinking. All right? But what it is a more purposeful approach with regards to the inclusion of those game-based elements. It is not tailoring your learning to a specific game. That's something very different. All right? So, what I'd like you to do is to ask Dr. Google a question and then put your answer into the question one, which is asking what is game-based learning, because this is the most common mistake people make when they are comparing gamification to game-based learning, and they get it around the wrong way. So, ask Dr. Google what is game-based learning, put an answer into the question space. Those who have just arrived, you can go to curie.live, use the PIN code 30516 and join in. Or you can sit near someone who is working on it and help them. Alright, we've got about 30 seconds. Do we need more time? Yes? I've got some handouts that you'll get, some takeaways at the end. Okay, one of them has got, well, they both have, but at the back it's got a QR code, and the QR codes on the back have all of the resources, these ones, but digital versions because they're all hyperlinked. It's also got the actual slides from today, so you can look over those. It's got a video about how I use this particular platform. All right, and it's also got a video of how I use a different particular platform that is available as well. So those takeaways I'll leave there. Okay, let's stop us there. What will happen is your answers will turn up. You can also set it so that the learners will vote on which answer they think is the best answer. It gives you a chance to then discuss with them what is a good answer, what is not a good answer, or here is a good answer, how might you make it better? That sort of an idea. We'll just skip that for now. All right, this is what you've put in. Okay, the most common error people make is that they conflate or put together gamification with game-based learning. But what I said earlier in the slide was that when you are incorporating your learning to a game, that is game-based learning. Gamification is just the inclusion of game-based elements into your learning, into your instruction. So what sorts of elements are we thinking? Well, the most obvious ones are quizzes. We do those quite a bit. Quizzes, it might be that we have a quiz that awards points or a quiz that awards badges. It might be that we have progress bars so that the learners can see how far along they are in the syllabus or how far they are along in the particular unit or the course. There might be mini games that you have, that your learners might have mini avatars, and those avatars perhaps go on little quests. You might have a leaderboard, which I know we have some issues with, right? But it might have a leaderboard so that you can see which learners are at the top, and badges, etc., awarded to those who are working very well through the material. Which game-based elements do you think you could use in your lessons, or which do you already use? You got just over a minute, just on a minute. About 30 seconds, add in any more that you can think of. I'll cut it off. Now what's going to happen is it's going to create a word cloud of what you've said, and the ones that, obviously, as you're familiar with word cloud, so the ones that have come up the most appear in the middle. And these are simple things that, again, during a lesson you can very quickly figure out where students are thinking and what they're thinking about. All right. Now, the things that we do see whenever we incorporate game-based elements into our learning: senses of autonomy. So it's the learners, it can be self-directed. If you've done Kahoot before or you've done quiz before, you can actually have it learner-faced so that it is a task assigned to them, giving them the sense of they have to do this work, it is focused directly at them, they have control over it. Collaborative and socialization aspects: they talk, they discuss, they interact with each other, they check what the other answers the learners are doing and discuss whether they think that answer is better or not. It improves motivation and engagement, and also the idea of mastery, where we've got some learners for basic skills that I've had, and they've done some small game-based activities and they've gone from scoring 40% to scoring 90% just on basic skill-based concepts, which is quite a remarkable thing, I think. Benefits: different abilities can be taken into account. You can tailor those activities right the way down to specific needs of the learners themselves. You can have different learning styles and accommodate all of the range of learners that you have within your class, and so it is very straightforward. It is what the research tells us. It is not something that you put on top of your learning, it's something that you incorporate into your teaching. So it's just an everyday aspect of what you do, but you're just being more purposeful perhaps about it. Autonomy, as said before, they're able to make mistakes, they're able to learn from those mistakes. Anytime you've played a game and you've lost a particular challenge in the game, you've had to think, how could I do better? I'm going to use this strategy in order to improve my results the next time I play that particular game. It's the same idea with game-based, with the gamification aspects that we put in. Competence-based, it improves the idea about mastery when you have points and badges and even leadership boards. Meaningfulness by learners, because they can see a point to what they're doing. They understand, they have a quest, they have a mission. They understand what they have to do. And there's also socialization. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to skip that. I was going to ask you what benefit you think would be most beneficial for Nexus learners. Overall impacts, when you do the research, things that they tell you in the studies is there is a different result depending on the age of the learners that you're dealing with. And you have to be very careful as to how you structure your game-based elements based on the age of the learners. There is also a difference with gender, which I found quite interesting. Some of you might find quite interesting from a sociological or psychological point of view as well. Women tend to find the socialization and the collaboration aspect of it more enjoyable than the competition. That's what the research tells us. It does depend on the level of setup, so the degree of engagement can vary depending on how involved and how set up you put it all, and it is able to be applied to a small part or the entire course, depending again on how much time you have to do it. Very quickly, a couple of Nexus learners, one of the better ways to get definitions to stick, encourages them to do revision as continuous revision as opposed to binge studying. I thought those were two very useful and insightful ideas. Real world applications that we see, there's staff induction and wellness programs. You'll all be familiar with the child safety programs that we had to work our way through with very obvious game-based elements within it. Wellness programs, HR, hiring programs, professional learning programs, assessment for learning, university level courses are being rewritten along game-based lines. Now, the sheet that I've given you all, this one, which you can all take, has got examples of different software and sites that use game-based elements, right? Some of them more than others. Some of them perhaps are paid and therefore you might want to think twice about using them, but it is still interesting to have a look and see what is going on in the real world outside of the school. There is also the obvious ones like the Kahoots and the quiz, etc. in there, and as said, there is the one that I am currently using, which is called CurryPod, and there's a video in there explaining how I use CurryPod and why it is perhaps quite interesting to use, right, and quite fun to use. In case you're wondering, just a very short bit about CurryPod. CurryPod is AI based, so as well as being gamified, it also has AI as its background, so you can ask CurryPod to create the lesson for you or the activity for you, and then you check and change it as you will, add an extra detail, depth, move things around, whatever, and obviously check that it's correct because AI doesn't always get it right. So there's a video in there showing you how that all happens and a video about another one as well. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening to me today. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to email me or come in and see me in room 214. Otherwise, thank you.